Get my bearings. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this morning and to talk to you. I was going to say sunny Sydney, but it's a little bit overcast out there this morning. Thank you very much to Charlotte Verrill, who's pretty much single-handedly put this day together for us, and Professor David Winlaw as well, who the whole team here has just been absolutely fantastic to deal with and helping to set this day up, and I'm sure it's going to be very successful. I want to have a quick chat to you today about the registry numbers, the research projects that we've got running, a couple of things around new initiatives, and then a quick chat around costs and fundraising. So the registry was established in 2009, sorry. And of course, as mentioned, it's now been 40 years since the first Fontan operation was performed. We have almost 1,500 people on the Fontan Registry, and we collect that information from all the major paediatric and adult cardiac centres across Australia and New Zealand. What we collect is the health information of people, and this includes information around their operations as well as their follow-up letters from their visits with their cardiologists. And overall, what we want to do is identify the aspects of patients' care that can be fine-tuned so that quality of life and health can be optimised. This graph gives you a spread of the current age group of the registry. So this is some updated data from last year. The average age at which a Fontan is performed in Australia and New Zealand is 5.7 years, and that ranges from 1 to 40 years. The average age of current Fontan registry participants is 19, and this is set to increase to an average age of 21 by 2025, and to 26 by the year 2035. So we're quickly moving over the next 20 years from a predominantly adolescent group to a predominantly young adult group, which will have quite different needs. So, and how we meet those needs is something that we will all need to consider as a group. Since our update to you last year, we've put considerable effort into cleaning our data and improving the quality. And this has been made possible by the support from cardiologists and their staff who are now sending us information on a much more regular basis, as well as the dedicated input from our administrative team. This graph just gives a quick overview of participants' clinic letters in both the over and the under 18-year group. And you can see that it's for the last follow-ups from the last 2 years is over 83% complete. This means that our registry data is more complete, and therefore we can be more certain of the information and the conclusion that we draw from these results. Given the greater completeness of data and the fact that this is the largest database of its kind in the world, the registry is now in a good position to start working with larger data outfits, including pharmaceutical companies. And more recently, we've started getting some of these types of requests. Big Pharma is knocking on the door. If successful, as Eve mentioned earlier, this would be very exciting for people living with a Fontan circulation to have first access to this type of opportunities through the registry. This graph shows an increase in the number of Fontan operations performed in Australia and New Zealand each year. It's a bit of a spike there in the last year. And there's also a predicted increase in the size of the Fontan population, as shown here in some modelling which was done for us by our health economist, Chris Schilling, and which is projecting out to 2035. Survival after the Fontan operation is much better than what was originally conceptualised, and the sudden drop that people have predicted has not happened. I'm going to quickly run through some of the research projects that we currently have up and running. So our liver and renal project Dr. AJ Iyengar will talk to us some more about that a little bit later on. But that project is examining the liver and renal function in people 3 or more years post their Fontan operation. We've completed data collection in Melbourne, and Sydney will have finalised all their data collection by the end of this year, and we're over halfway with data collection in New Zealand, looking to wrap up by early next year. As part of our NHMRC-funded partnership grant, we're also taking a close look at people's experiences of transitioning from paediatric to adult care. And that's some of this information on this side. We know that this can be a difficult phase to negotiate for people when they move from paediatric to adult care. And we want to understand this better so that when people reach adult care, they have a soft place to land. And that also helps them to remain engaged with the health system. This project around transition will involve collecting some surveys from both parents or caregivers, as well as the young people themselves as they move through transition, as well as some phone interviews that we've already commenced. The few graphs there, the few bars there in the middle talks to the functional outcomes project, which we have commenced this year. And this is the first population-based cross-sectional study to analyse the impact of fenestration and anticoagulation, words which you are already familiar with, and you know these are some important aspects of care that we need to look at. So we want to look at the impact of fenestration and anticoagulation with warfarin compared to aspirin on things like bone density, exercise capacity, cardiac function. We're doing some neuroimaging with some brain MRI scans, as well as some quality of life. This is someone who's about to undergo a cardiac exercise MRI, and it's the largest, first and the largest study of its kind, we believe, to do so in the world. So what we want to look at here is the variations in blood flow during exercise and at rest. So while people are actually exercising while they are in the MRI machine. So we're well underway with recruitment for that functional outcomes project. We've already started getting some people in for that in Melbourne. New South Wales people will also have received some invitations to participate. There's people who meet the criteria will be invited to participate. So that, for example, that includes being on aspirin or warfarin for 5 or more years. So look out for some invitations in your email box. New Zealand will also commence that project shortly. We're also about to start recruitment for the quality of life surveys, and Dr. Nadine Kasparian and Laura Mitchell will talk more to you about that later on. And then a little bit later on as well, we've got Nigel Sutherland, who will be talking about the very interesting findings from his project, where he was looking at an 8-week exercise program and sort of the pre and post results from how people went with that exercise program. Last year's Fontan Education Day generated a lot of energy, and one of the outflows of this has been the establishment of the Australia-New Zealand Fontan Advisory Committee. They aim to be a voice for the Fontan community, and you'll hear from their chair, Jonathan Mackley, and I see Rachel up there, both of them. They'll be having a chat to you about that a little bit later on. They are trying to be a voice for people with a Fontan circulation, and they want to advocate for their needs. So we'll hear a bit more about that group structure and function later on. Many things in life are free, but I think if we want to have the best outcomes for people with a Fontan circulation, we do need quality data. And if we want quality data, we need to resource it. This shows you an overview of the costs of the Fontan Registry. The graph, the bar in green, gives you a breakdown of the amount of money it costs to run a registry of this kind. It's about 190,000. The funds we raised last year was 140. It's left a little bit of a shortfall. We continue on. And really, from me this morning, a little bit of a pitch around the Fontan For Life campaign that we are launching again today. You will be getting some information in your email, on your phone, on your Facebook, through today about the Fontan For Life campaign. The work that we have done in the last year includes things like, so this is where the money went. We recruit new people into the Fontan Registry so we can send them into the Fontan Registry. And that's how our numbers keep growing. We keep updating everyone's information on the registry. This includes staff and students travelling around to paediatric and cardiac centres and gathering some of that information. We were also very fortunate last year to raise some funds through some great initiatives which will support people to come and participate in some of the research in some of the major centres. So we've already started recruiting people from South Australia to participate in the Functional Outcomes Project in Melbourne. So today we're launching the Fontan For Life campaign. We want you to set your own challenge and support a cause that is close to your heart. There's some ideas of some of the things that you could do. By no means feel limited to those. I'll quickly just tell you how you can go about doing this. All of this information is in your bag as well. So if you go to the fontanregistry.com site and you click on the Fontan For Life tab, or this link here at the bottom, it'll take you to the Fontan For Life page where you can read a bit more about it. If you click on that link, the Everyday Hero link, it'll take you to the Everyday Hero page where you can create a page to start some fundraising. It could be as easy as actually doing something like an event or just getting family and friends to pitch in and put some money towards it. So you'll see that brochure in your pack as well. To finish off, I just want to play a quick video. This is not going to work, so just bear with me for 2 seconds. Oops, it's going to work? Yes. Thank you.
Lachlan was diagnosed with a congenital heart defect in utero at about 24 weeks. He was diagnosed with tricuspid atresia, which basically means after his 3 operations he'll just end up with the left side of the heart. He only had to go into the special care nursery because he was small. His cardiologist picked up that he had a bit of increased work of breathing and then he just didn't look himself. So we were admitted to the ward, and after a few tests they found that Lachlan was actually in heart failure. His health declined overnight and he was taken to emergency surgery. I suppose with Lachlan we're fortunate enough that it was picked up that he needed to have surgery. I suppose with a lot of fundraising things, they're difficult to get to. One thing about the Fontan For Life is just so easy. It's as easy as just jumping online, getting a little web domain and sending out that address to family and friends and getting them to donate anything they can just to help fund the research that is going to be imperative for these children and adults with congenital heart defects to live longer and have better lives. You wouldn't know, he's had
just a normal baby.
Yeah, 2 open heart surgeries. He's hitting all these milestones and doing beautifully.